All right, welcome everybody. This is Ted Young, and today we are going to be continuing the Rapattoni Magic webinar series with today's subject, List Maker, the basics. List Maker is one of the best kept secrets in Rapattoni for a feature which has a tremendous amount of power, but not everybody knows about. And today I am joined by Diane Clem.
Hello, everyone.
And Frank Rittersdorf.
Hello.
And to give you an idea of where we're sitting at the moment, make it a little bit more personal, there we go. The three characters on the right are the ones you need to worry about. That's us. I'm in the center.
Another thing we'd like to talk about is the version of Magic that you will see in today's presentation. We're always going to use the newest version, which today is 9.28.13. If you have not upgraded to the latest and greatest, your Magic software may look a little different than the one you're going to see today. So to ensure the most efficient use of Magic, give our support a call, and we will schedule you for a free upgrade. Now,
yeah, and this is Ted. The List Maker features you're going to see haven't changed recently. These are the same features that have been around for a long, long time. However, as Frank noted, some of the other screens you're seeing may not be the same as yours. So, as always, we encourage that you go to the latest version of the software.
And today's topic is actually a three-part series. Today we're going to focus on the basics. And June 8th, we're going to talk about List Maker and utilizing the merge and the IMS. And then on June 22nd, we're going to get a little bit more advanced, or I should say a lot more advanced, with our advanced application, something we like to call Ted's Trick.
Yeah, by the way, I didn't come up with that name, but these guys did.
Okay, so today we're going to cover the very basics of List Maker. What is List Maker and how can it help you? Setup in Magic, how to input and maintain information in List Maker, and how to get output out of List Maker.
Now, what is List Maker?
List Maker is a very powerful tool, very underutilized tool. It's a custom field maker. There are various ways that you can...
Whoa, wait a second. Did you say it's a custom field maker?
Yes, that is exactly what I said.
I thought it was just for making lists. You mean it's almost like I can go in and change my database and add things to track?
Exactly. That's exactly true.
That's pretty cool.
Right. Well, Magic
what's
already...
this bucket of people here have to do with that?
The bucket of people, that's your membership and your membership database.
Got it.
And Magic already has fields existing in the program that you can search for data to do with those fields.
You mean things like join date, status, all that stuff?
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly right. List Maker allows you to come up with a specified field that may not be in Magic, create that field, and be able to search from it.
So, for instance, Diane, you're talking about maybe who is a home inspector. So what List Maker can really do is grab those people, put them in line or in a list, and really make it really accessible for our customers to really find.
So I'm going to back up and say, okay, so Rapattoni Magic as it stands has no field to track home inspectors. But I can just go into List Maker, create a new category for home inspectors, and now start putting people on that. And now, as though it was a real field in the database, keep track of who is a home inspector.
Exactly.
Great. What else?
How about who speaks Spanish? We can basically do the same thing. So there's a number of lists that you can create depending on your imagination and your creativity. We can even get advanced and say who's a home inspector and speaks Spanish. You can create a list with both of those and narrow it down. In this case, in our bucket of stickman realtors, we have two people that is a home inspector and speaks Spanish.
Yeah, and by the way, that character who's lifting the world on his back, that represents the staff people, because we know how hard you all work.
Now, how can you make List Maker work for you? We showed you a couple of ideas. Let's kind of brainstorm and come up with, let's say, a lot more.
So these are going to be examples. Ooh, that looks like a storm.
Let's come up with a lot of ideas for this big storm.
Bright ideas to match the lightning.
Exactly.
That's right.
So,
okay, first we're going to look for maybe affiliate specialization. Are they home inspectors, appraisers? Also, as we talked about earlier, what languages people might speak.
So these are all just examples of things you could do in List Maker.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Like, for instance, field of business, where they work specifically with HUD, or maybe just they work with condos. Or even different subscriptions, whether it be email subscriptions, magazines. You can create lists to see exactly which members are on those subscriptions.
Security deposits. Maybe you're holding a security deposit for some reason that you're going to actually give back to the member, and you want to keep track of that.
So we can even use ListMaker to keep track of dollar figures.
Sure, absolutely.
Great.
And records of community service. Maybe someone is active in the community in some way that you want to track.
And not just in the community, who's active within your association, who's volunteering at events, who's offering a lot of sponsorships. You can all keep track of all of that, as well as political contacts. You're only as good as who you know, and who do your members know in the political arena?
Marketing campaigns. You can reach out to past and present membership with relevant information to do with your association. You may also want to collect information with regard to awards you'd like to give out.
And again, like I have mentioned before, ListMaker is only limited by the creativity or your imagination. But as you can see, we've come up with quite a few ideas. And if you're trying to track that in a number of different systems or a number of different Excel spreadsheets, you could pretty much feel like this guy. But I'll tell you what,
answer.
We have an answer.
A ray of light shining through ListMaker, the custom field creator. Because in a sense, that is what it is. And the name ListMaker implies you're simply putting people on lists, but in reality, what it gives you the ability to do is truly add your own fields to the database with validated values in them. So let's get into that a little bit more and get into some specifics.
Very good. First, we're going to take a look at the setup of lists in Magic. We're going to create a list category. We're going to create a code setup, and we're going to designate rules for that list in Magic.
And before we get into the next example, as with all of our software, the capabilities are very deep. And during this webinar, our main goal is to give you an idea of what's possible. Some of you will be familiar enough you're going to be able to do it after the webinar. Others of you won't, and we absolutely encourage you to call our support, because our main goal here is you understand what the capability is and you start using it. Because software is only as good as what you're using it for.
Right, and I actually do have a real-life scenario we're going to use here. Somebody had called in because their board decided they wanted to do background checks on their membership as a courtesy to people selling their homes, an added level of security. They needed to keep track of something they were doing, which was to collect fingerprints on their membership. So ListMaker is something they could use to do this.
So what we've done here is we've grabbed our illustration, and we're going to apply Diane's example to our illustration. So for instance, the question would be now, who has given their fingerprints to the association? So we would grab those people, and basically what we would do is we'd create a category. In this case, we did SCRT for security, and then within that category, we created a code called PRNT for prints. Now let's take a look at how that would look in the Magic software. So first, I'm going to go to Managers, Membership, Member ListMaker, List Category Code Setup. Seems pretty straightforward.
So this is where you start whenever you're going to be creating a new category or a new list, or you want to go in and change a characteristic of a list.
Exactly.
Got it.
That's right, and in looking at the category, that would be the actual fields you're creating, so to speak.
Well, and hang on a second, because there's a lot of fields on this screen. Are we going to look at all these right now?
Yeah, we're going to just look at the basics for today. We're not going to look at any of the IMS setup.
Okay. Yes, there's a tremendous amount here, and we are just going to cover the basics right now.
So again, getting back to the basics, we're going to talk about categories. And so we set up our category here of SCRT, which we described it as security precautions. And for today's example, we're going to take you right to list codes. Like I said, I created a list code within the category security, and in this case, I created 3. Like you can create multiple codes within one category, but we're going to focus on the PRNT for fingerprints. From here, you can see the list status is active. And you also can see the list owner. In this case, it's going to be SU, which is the support representatives. And that's basically how you do a basic setup of a list. So let's get back to our PowerPoint here. So the next step is going to be input and maintain these lists. And we have a number of different ways you can do that. We're going to start with a member query form.
So, excuse me, Frank. So, yeah, okay, now we've got the list. Now, how many ways can we now get members or offices? Because, by the way, everything we talk about for members also applies to offices.
Exactly.
How do we now get them onto a list? Okay, so number one's a member query form?
We're going to go into member
Great.
query form. So let's go into Magic. So I'm going to go to the Managers, Membership, Member Information Form. Oh, a little bit of delay. And so let's go ahead and pull up Carol Barker, because we love to use Carol Barker. She's a great member of our association.
Absolutely.
And so now we're looking at a member query form. Now if you go to the right-hand side of the form, you're going to see a list of buttons. Right about the middle, there's a button that says Lists. Let's go ahead and click on that, and now we can see all the lists that Carol Barker belongs to. Now let's say, since she came in today, we want to give her, we want to put her on our fingerprints list because she gave us her prints. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Modify button, hit F4, and I'm just going to quickly type in our category and our code.
And of course, you could zoom to go select these as well, but
Exactly.
you all know that because you're experienced Magic users.
And we have the date as that she gave us her fingerprints today, 5/25, so that's going to auto-populate. If I escape, it will save. I click back in here. Now you can see that she also is on our security fingerprints list. So that's one
Simple
way
as
of doing
that.
it. Simple.
That's great. How
So
else?
let's go back. Now we have the list form by list. So we're going to go to Managers, Membership, Member List Maker, List Form by List.
List form by list is very, very useful if you want to pull up one list in particular and manage the members that belong to that list in one place. So if we pull up our fingerprints list, you can see every member who's come in and provided their fingerprints and actually the date they came in and did that.
So it would be very simple to go to this form and actually search to see if any particular member either is on or not on it.
Exactly.
Great.
That's right.
Correct. So the next way you can do it is through List Form by Member. So I'm going to go ahead and escape out of this form. Go to Managers, Membership, Member List Maker, List Form by Member. And let's go ahead and pull up Carol Barker again. And so now we can see her here, and then all of her lists under the member lists. And again, we just added her the fingerprints.
So this is really exactly the same information we saw from the member query form.
Exactly.
But I can view it much more quickly for each member and just go to them and see their lists and go directly to them.
Exactly. You don't have to go in and out of the member query form all the time. I can click on Clive Barker, for instance, and click on Samuel Baker, and I can see all the lists that they're on as well.
So in keeping with the way we've designed the application in general, we're giving you different ways to get at the data that will apply based on what it is you're trying to accomplish. So you've got a member in front of you, you want to make one change for that member, maybe some other things. You start at the member query form, you have a whole bunch of maintenance to one list, you do the list, the members by list, etc.
Correct.
That's right.
Thanks, Frank.
And on a side note, if it's relevant, you notice we have the amount column here that we actually, if it's relevant, you can actually put the amount, like for instance, security
That's
deposits.
A very good point, because we haven't really talked about the fact that for any given list, in addition to the actual simply being on the list, you can include a comment relative to this person's involvement or relationship to this list, a status, which you can define, a date, which of course represents whatever is appropriate for the list, when this happened to them, last time they were updated, when they were added, when they were modified, and even an amount column, which, as Diane mentioned earlier, if you're using this for deposits, you can use to record a dollar amount.
Correct.
Exactly. Let's go back. So now we have merge. But before we go into that, just want to remind you, we are going to save this for our second part of our List Maker webinar
wait,
series.
I'm confused, Frank, because frankly, we were no pun intended, frankly, but we were talking about putting information into lists, but a merge is something you run to get information out of the system. So implying here that when I run a merge, I can actually create records that will go into a list and
Exactly.
automatically add records
That's
to it?
correct. You're going to gather a section of your membership you can add automatically to a list that you designate.
Wow.
And we're not just talking one or two, we're talking a large number of members
So I could
at one
add
time.
10 records, I could add 1,000 records, I could add 10,000 members to a list automatically using a merge.
Depending
Exactly.
on
Wow,
your
I
criteria.
can't wait to
Yep.
see that. All right, great.
Stay
What's next?
tuned for in 2 weeks. Now we're going to talk about output. How are we going to get the data? How can we make sense of the data that's in the lists? So let's take a look at first Member List Maker Report. So we're going to go to Managers, Membership, Member List Maker, and Member List Report, which ends up being Member List Maker Report. Now there's a couple different options you can do. We're going to do this really quick and simple for the sake of the demonstration or the webinar. So I'm going to quickly put
Right.
in the category and put in the code. and then just leave pretty much everything else here. Do notice that you can put up to 5 different codes within that report. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Create Report here. I'm going to redirect it by hitting the Redirect button, going to the Preview field and selecting Yes on the drop-down. Hit OK. I'm going to start the execution, and now I'll select my printer. And to zoom it in so we can all see it, I'm just going to go ahead and click on that report for us.
And by the way, all those steps that Frank just took are the things that those of you who use Magic all the time do in about 3.5 seconds without thinking about it. But because not everybody out there is, we do like to take it step by step, so it's not a mystery the first time.
Exactly.
It makes these a really good training tool for new staff members.
And I want to point something out. We're looking at the different forms of output for ListMaker that I called this we called it a custom field creator earlier. One of the disadvantages to truly just going into a database and adding a new field is you've now got to go in and do everything else to that application so that it can see that field. You've got to go in and modify the report so they can see it. You've got to go in and modify merges so they can see it. You've got to go in and modify forms so they can see it. The beauty of ListMaker is that all of that functionality is already available to you. As soon as you add that category in that list and assign it to people, you've got a report you can run. You've got multiple reports. You've got query forms you can use. So it really is a great feature, and it's very powerful. So, sorry, Frank, go ahead.
Real quick, just on the report, I just want to show you, again, you can see the date, and again, for this example, these are all the dates that they came into the association and gave us their fingerprints. So it's an easy way to see what date they were able to do that. So let's go ahead and escape out of here. Another way is ListMaker sign-in sheet. Now, Diane, why would you use a sign-in sheet for a list?
Well, the sign-in sheet would be very handy in the case that we've used here, because as members came in to provide their fingerprints, they could sign and date that they'd done so. So you had kind of a written record of it.
Exactly. And how I find here is Managers, Membership, Member ListMaker, and ListMaker sign-in sheet. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to quickly just put in my category and my code and go through the process of creating the report so we all can see it.
And there's lots of options in each of these reports, and obviously we're not going to spend time going through each one, but you have a lot of latitude in terms of your ability to select members based on their member statuses in addition to their list statuses and other criteria.
Right, and here you can see they can sign it, so they're saying they're attesting that they brought in the fingerprints, and as the association we can keep it on file and have that for proof. So another way to get some output and really use it is ListMaker Merge. So I'm going to go to Merge, Membership, Member ListMaker Merge.
The ListMaker Merge is really handy in that you can take this information you get in terms of the members on the list, and you can send it to Excel to manipulate the data. You can send it to Word to send out literature to people or letters to people, or you can create labels.
In other words, all the things that merges are usually good for.
That's exactly right.
But
just
now
like
you
any
can
other merge.
select them on the basis of having been on that list. If you wanted to send a thank you out to everybody who actually had gotten in to give us their fingerprints, this would be an easy way to find them and go and do it.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Great.
And I'm not going to go into this, of course, because you can't really see anything when you do a merge unless I'm going to import into another software. But you can see where I list category, put our codes, and then you can select your relevant criteria from there. So I'm going to go ahead and escape out of there. And then the last way that you can actually get some information from the list is through the rosters. And in this, you're going to go to Managers, Membership, Member Reports, and then right to Rosters. I can zoom in on this field.
And by the way, the rosters are, for those of you who haven't run them, are a very powerful set of programs to give you the ability to do multi-column and other nicely formatted reports of members or offices.
Yeah, they're really, really great for presentations for the board. Really nice looking reports.
Yes. So I'm going to zoom in here really quick, just kind of show you the form. Everything is relevant to the rosters. The one area that I want to direct your attention to.
2 areas.
Oh, 2 areas, yes.
Sorry.
Yes, thanks, Ted.
Yes, there's actually 2 list-specific things that we want to point out on the roster.
So I guess we'll start at the top then, right?
Exactly.
We'll go to the Format option, which is where you're going to see the member list code and how you're going to
Yes.
format on that roster.
Yeah, there's a lot of different formats of the rosters. This one in particular, if you pick the member list code, will actually give you a heading for each code. So for example, if you were tracking languages, you could run a roster of languages and it would subdivide all of your members by the languages that they spoke. So you'd have a Spanish section listing the members, and then a French section listing the members, and then a Swahili section listing the members. So it's specifically formatted for ListMaker. So that's one thing we wanted to point out. And Frank, what's the other thing?
The other thing is the member list category. So where you just enter your category and the different codes of the list that you want to show on the roster. And that's where you set that up, and that's how they will show there.
So that will determine which records appear on the roster, whereas the format will determine what it looks like.
Exactly.
Got it. Great.
Okay, so that is the output. Now let's kind of touch on what we've talked about today. We talked about what is ListMaker and how it can really help you, and hopefully we've come up with a number of ideas and maybe get you start thinking about, oh, I can use it for this and I can use it for that through my association, as well as we showed you how to set up in Magic, basically setting up the category as well as the codes within that category. We talked about a number of different ways to input and maintain that data through the member query form, list by list, as well as how to get the information to where you can really use it, whether you're going to manipulate it or you're even going to get it to where you can make some sense of it and analyze it. So that's it for today's webinar. Now we have the questions and answers section.
Okay, the first question we have here is, when you discuss being able to use the amount field in the list form, does that affect my accounting side? If not, what is the purpose of it?
That's a good question. And the answer is no. The amount field in ListMaker is purely a standalone field. It has no link whatsoever to accounting. It is there really as sort of a memo or reminder for you. So you can use it to record any dollar amount that's, as we said, for deposits or something like that, that maybe you don't want in the accounting system. It could represent a pledge. Now, I'll also say that we have specific, we mentioned earlier, awards. We have specific software modules that address things like contribution awards, sales awards, and pledges. However, every one of those things could be done perfectly well in ListMaker, and sometimes you can even find it easier simply to do them all there. And keeping along those lines, something like a sales awards, if you want to represent annual sales, you put it in that amount field. And of course, you don't want the dollar volume of houses somebody sold to affect your accounting, so you wouldn't want that to be mixed in there.
Right, right. Okay, can I customize the information I see when I print out a ListMaker sign-in sheet?
Customize the information. I'm not exactly sure what that question means, actually.
And I'm not sure we have the answer to that, but you certainly can call in and talk to
Yeah,
support, and we can get a little more detail from you.
Yeah,
I think what she's mentioning, you could customize it to the point of the criteria within the ListMaker sign-in sheet form.
meaning which list you're going to actually include on that sheet.
Correct.
Okay. That would certainly be true. And by the way, on your questions, we rarely get to every question that's asked, and we only answer those that are straightforward enough that we can do it without further examples. But when we get those that are a little bit more complex, we'll either call you back or we'll include it in one of the next two webinars that are coming up.
Okay, next question. You discussed how to maintain lists on members, but what about doing the same for your offices?
Well, really, everything we've said as far as members pertains to offices as well, because you have the ability to put offices on lists just the same way you can put members on lists. The two functions are parallel. Now, there's another question here. It says, will your ListMaker reports ignore members that have gone inactive? Well, we didn't focus on those screens for that long, but if we had, you'd notice that one of the things you have the ability to choose, I believe, is the member status. So the answer to that would be yes. Okay, give us a moment here while we read through. We've got lots of questions. That's good. I can see that you're all paying attention out there. Okay, I like this one. This is a great question. Please explain why we need fingerprints Are we looking for criminals? Okay. Legitimate question. We actually debated, do we really want to use this example? But the fact is, it was something that one of our customers did. No, they weren't looking for criminals. What they were doing was, in trying to enhance the realtor brand and the fact that you can trust realtors, and because there's always concerns, you're opening up a house for sale, can you trust the person who's representing you? They were actually going to, and is that the person who was in there? Did they take something? Did they touch something? And in an effort to try to reassure the buying and selling public, they thought it would be a good idea to actually keep track of those fingerprints. Again, not an idea we kept up with, that we came up with, but we did have a customer, and of course we don't have a did they give us their fingerprints field already written into the application, but ListMaker can handle that just fine.
And we have another question here. How can you show all the lists Carol Barker, I believe it's Carol Barker, are on? So you can actually do that through the member query form, like we showed you through the lists.
Let's go ahead and take a look at it.
Let's take another quick look. Okay.
And I think we have a number of other questions, but I think we may have to get back to them individually or in the next session. But just to give you an example again, that it's very simple when you've got an existing member, and Frank's gone right to it, is we just look up Carol, click on the list button, and boom, there are all the lists she's on. So it's very easy to look them up, and of course we even have that other way of getting to them.
Through the member
List by member.
Yes,
Yep.
list by
That's
member.
right. That's right. Okay, do we have any other simple ones there?
We do. Can we see a sample of a roster printout? And we wouldn't. That's one of those questions we wouldn't be able to do today in the webinar. But I do want to encourage you to call support. We can stream in with you, and we can show you exactly how to do that.
And actually, too, on the rosters, one of the things that not everybody knows about is that under our help, and if you go up to help and documentation, we have, and we have to bring it over because it's in another window. We have samples, and I will, under here, under reference, you will find that laser roster samples exist here, which is actually easier than going in and individually printing a bunch of different copies. So you can go in and view what many of the different samples look like. So, for example, where's the list maker? We'll go to member list code one line. And there's an example. So actually, that is an example of what the roster looks like. And you can see this one is the affiliate specialization example. Okay, so that's a good question. And I think with that, it's probably time to wrap up the questions. Thank you for them and for joining us. And
to view past and future webinars and to register for upcoming webinars, visit our website at www.rapattoni.com. Look for support, magic webinars and training videos, and you will see a list of all of our past webinars as well as future webinars.
And if you come up with any existing questions too, don't hesitate to email them to support because we do want to answer them. Our goal is to use the software and you get as much value as possible out of it.
And again, remember, our next Magic webinar is going to be on June 8th. It's going to be in 2 weeks. We're going to utilize the merge in the IMS with the list maker. So again, we're going to incorporate the list maker with the IMS and to really have and show you how you can have your members enter or input the data that you're looking for rather than you're always inputting it, as well as use the merge module to select a large number of members and add them to a list.
Great. All right, and I think with that we're just about done. So
thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
Frank and Diane, thank you for joining us, learning a little bit more about ListMaker, the best kept secret in Rapattoni, and we look forward to episodes 2 and 3 and hope you can join us for those. Everybody have a good day, and we will talk to you in a couple of weeks.